questioned assessments of his own intelligence agencies, and he took aim at the free press, calling out CNN and other news outlets specifically. Back to you guys.
All right, Sarah, and we need the benefit of context here. You know, the president gave some prepared remarks. He was on message. He's going to give a speech that's coming up. We're going to bring it to you live. He's expected to be on message, philosophical, saying things that are constructive about what the world needs to adopt from America and what America needs to bring to the rest of the world. But then comes this. Let's bring in our panel. CNN politics reporter and editor-at-large Chris Cillizza, CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger, CNN chief international correspondent Christiane Amanpour, and former State Department official and ambassador to NATO Nicholas Burns. Also joining us we'll have other people come in as we need them. We have a big bank of experts for you this morning. Christiane, when I say context, so he's getting ready to meet with President Putin, and in the press conference, he belittles the U.S. intelligence assessment and says, we don't know if it was Russia, maybe it was Russia, could have been other people. That's right before he meets with Putin. He's standing next to Duda, who has come under fire in recent years for the deterioration of his own practices with respect to democracy, and he attacks a free press in the United States. Contextually, what do those mean on the world stage?
Well, look, it doesn't look good because the President of the United States generally goes abroad and touts all those values that makes America special and that America has given to the world. The First Amendment, freedom of the press, market economy instead of protectionism, the idea of the sanctity of borders instead of kind of being wobbly on what Putin and others have done, and the obvious 100% commitment to Article 5 of NATO, which he hasn't actually done in so many words and which actually has sent a shudder through allies. We'll see whether he defines and redefines those words in his speeches coming up. But, you know, Putin is a very shrewd tactical player. Some say he's not a great strategist, but tactically he's shrewd. He has been doing his homework for many years he's been in office. He is no neophyte, and President Trump has not been on the stage in terms of foreign policy for certainly anywhere near the length of time that President Putin has been, and President Putin has very direct objectives when he gets to this meeting with President Trump. So the analysis is from experts that President Trump needed to be highly read in, highly advised, and highly prepared to push back on the crucial issues that separate and define America as opposed to an authoritarian state that breaches international law as Russia has done.
And as you see, our senior White House correspondent Jim Acosta is joining us as well. Before we get to him, Ambassador Burns, to you. The president, clearly, as Chris and Christiane just outlined, is questioning U.S. intelligence, right? What the number of agencies that said this about Russia, and also whether or not it was Russia alone, which no other U.S. intelligence agency has ever said it was anyone but Russia. That is a fact. However, he seems to fully trust U.S. intelligence when it comes to North Korea, and that intelligence is critical right now. How much of a corner does that put this president in?
Well, I think it's really unwise what he did this morning. The U.S. intelligence community is rarely united on any issue. They've been united for 6 months on this issue in their public report to the American people. And it's unwise politically because the Senate voted by 97-2 2 weeks ago to impose new sanctions on Russia, and that was led by Senate Republicans. He's out of step with his own political party. And frankly, let's talk about the basic duties of an American president, is to defend the United States. Russia launched a cyber attack on the American election. They got into the databases of 21 American states, and the president is not defending the United States. He gave a gift to Putin here on the eve of their meeting, which Putin doesn't deserve at all. What Putin needs to hear in the meeting tomorrow is that there are going to be repercussions, tangible, concrete steps by the United States to penalize Russia, because if we don't do that, think about what Putin might do to our 2018 midterms or the 2020 presidential election. I do think it's dereliction of the basic duty of the president to defend the United States. He's out of step with the rest of the country. Very unwise to say what he did this morning.
And remember, it's just customary that the United States president, or really any head of state, when they go abroad, they are trying to put the best face on their own country. You know, they're trying to be boastful. That's not what we saw this morning. Jim Acosta, it is a high bar for me to ask you if you were surprised by something that the President of the United States said, but to take the petty political plays that are going on here at home and take it to the world stage, was that a surprise to the press corps? Right.
No, not at all, Chris and Poppy. Unfortunately, this was not a surprise at all that the president would take the first question from an American reporter during his foreign trip here, and that it would be from the friendly news media, friendly reporter who teed up a question about CNN. For the president to then go off on CNN as fake news, to me, just made this entire spectacle seem like a fake news conference. This was not an attempt by the president to seek out a question from somebody who was going to challenge him on the issues. David Martosco and I have known each other for a long time. He covered Donald Trump out on the campaign trail. I think he's a really good guy. But in this instance, I think the conservative news media was being used here, and I do think that's unfortunate. A couple of things we do want to point out, though, very quickly. One is the president once again said that Barack Obama did nothing from August to November about Russian meddling. That is simply fake news. President Obama talked to Vladimir Putin at a G20 summit in September about all of this. To say otherwise is simply fake news. Barack Obama went farther, by the way, in that meeting with Vladimir Putin than President Trump is promising to do himself. He's not even promising to bring up election meddling in his bilateral with Vladimir Putin. So for the president to say, well, Barack Obama did nothing, he is at this point promising to do less than nothing on that front. The other thing that was fake news coming from President Trump is when he said, well, I keep hearing it's 17 intelligence agencies that say Russia meddled in the election. I think it's only 3 or 4. Where does that number come from? Where is this 3 or 4 number come from? My suspicion, Chris and Poppy, is that if we go to the administration and ask them for this question, I'm not so sure we're going to get an answer. And if we do get an answer, it'll probably be off camera.
And Jim, to stay with us, we're looking at live pictures of Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner, both very senior advisors around the president there in Warsaw ahead of this speech that is about to begin at any moment. You'll hear it live right here. Look, we do know that ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, those intelligence agencies that have purview over something like Russia hacking and meddling in the election, all said that Russia interfered in the election with the intent of helping Donald Trump.
And they have
ODNI speaks for all 17 agents.
That's right. And Clapper actually went out and qualified this number, saying, you know, all 17 didn't look at it. He obviously oversees all of them. They benefit from the collective intelligence.
Right.
But they came to a reason of certainty here on this issue that they have no reason that's self-serving to have found it. And I think that's something, Chris Cillizza, that often gets lost in this mix. You know, the intelligence community, they are in the business of being circumspect. You know, very few things are absolutes in their world. They have a hard time proving things in general. For them to come down so hard and to be undermined by their president abroad right before he meets with the man whom they believe is responsible, I mean, that is really twisting things up in a knot at an inopportune time, is it not?
Yes. I mean, I've stopped saying, or tried to stop saying, remarkable, because I think there's so much that is sort of historical when it comes to what the president says and does and what this president says and does. But yes, absolutely. I mean, I really do believe that Donald Trump made